So here we are again. Pieces of Perfect, Chapter 2.
Oh man, this was a
New
good
Year, new
read.
chapter. New Year, new chapter. This was quite a read. Yes.
You know what? I didn't see this coming. And I mean, how many times have we read this and we wrote it? And
That's
I'm
what's
like,
almost most
wow.
enjoyable. I
Yeah,
mean, that's almost what's most enjoyable is
it
like
is.
it's like reading something for the first time.
I know. A lot happened, but not anything happened.
It's really a wonder.
So, okay, so let's start. Let's backtrack because I was literally laughing out loud as I was reading this to myself. Um, so we left off with Lily heading to the gate, right? For her, she's coming back from, what is it, Colorado?
Yes.
Okay.
And her asshole parents.
Uh-huh. Out of all things, don't want her to be a teacher. Okay. So she's heading to the gate after she's just had another interaction with sexy Max at the bar. So let's just get right into it. First page.
Yeah, I mean, she gets another Cosmo. Didn't she already have a Cosmo magazine?
Uh, you know what? I will have to look back at some point because that is an astute observation. I don't remember.
I feel like I read that already when I saw it, and I was like, how many Cosmos does she need? Like, they don't put out.
Well, I mean, let's be real. The girl is obsessed with sex. She doesn't want to say she is, but she is, and that's all Cosmo is. So maybe she needs a few. Yeah, so she grabs a bottle of water and a Cosmo, goes over to the gate there and is like, thinking to herself that she is going to get stuck next to another irritating asshole.
I mean, she's the only arrogant asshole. Like, she's calling everyone else arrogant. Everyone's arrogant. Her parents are arrogant. Max is arrogant. I'm like, you are the only arrogant one.
Yeah, I know. And irritating. Like, she says everyone's irritating. So she goes, I'd love to picture this. She goes and sits at the gate facing the window and is just like looking absent-mindedly out into the night sky. Okay. So this is, I mean, we had cell phones, obviously. And, it wasn't like people use them now. What was this, 2013 when we wrote this? But I mean, she has her two Cosmo magazines and she's not reading either one. She's just staring.
But she's looking at herself in the reflection.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Where we have like an info dump of what she looks like.
Yes,
and I feel like last time we talked about how good we were at integrating these descriptions with Max, and now we just have an info dump of every description of her.
And not only is it an info dump, so I have underlined, I was pretty, extremely pretty actually, and then I have ha written next to it, and then I have a bracket with info dump, and I have to read this out loud. And why should I be offended at that? I was 5'5" with wavy brown hair that fell about 3 inches past my shoulders, voluptuous breasts, and a flat tummy. We have essentially described a Barbie, with brown hair.
Too short for Barbie.
Yeah, I guess so. I could definitely pull off a sexy outfit, and yet I hadn't really thought of myself as attractive in a sexual way until now. Now, Lily, the lie detector has determined that is a lie.
It doesn't even make sense.
No.
Like, she acknowledges that she's extremely pretty. Like, obviously, that would mean, like, that would make you attractive, which then gets, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's all a ripple effect.
Yes. And I love that, like, she's looking at herself in basically what would not be clear at all. Like, she's looking at a reflection in a window at night. And here, like, how many times have you done your makeup in the mirror and, gotten ready? And you've never once thought you were pretty until you're sitting at a gate looking at a window at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So great.
Sexy.
What'd you say?
She's admitted that she's pretty. She just hasn't admitted that she's sexy.
Yes. Sorry, you cut out for a second. Was it him that made me feel this way? And then she talks about it's kind of an info dump about her ex, Chris. And I also loved the image of her. It says, I giggled fondly at the memories of Chris. So I can relate, Lily, because as I read this, I was laughing also to myself with no. Are you still there?
Yeah, you cut out.
All right. Yes, somebody called.
So
I
we
don't
get for
know.
live recording.
I know, and I think it's Nolan's school, so we'll have to see about that. I'll check the message, but sorry about that, people who are listening. But yes, I could relate because I also was laughing hysterically on my own as I read this. Except I was in my house, not in a public place, giggling out loud.
But I don't know how you like giggle fondly.
Like,
I get you could think back. Like, you could think back fondly, but if the thought of him makes you giggle, that's not like a positive.
yeah. I mean, maybe it's just all the good times they had, and then she goes on to list them, like when he would find change between his like couch cushions to take her out to dinner. I love it. Love it. Pretty sure that her parents would not approve of this guy.
No, but then he was getting his master's at Northwestern, and I put a comment that she wouldn't move back to Chicago because she refused to move back home, like back to her hometown, even though I don't even know because she was coming from Colorado, but we say now
I have
Chicago's her
that
hometown.
too.
And I just wrote, she's the worst. Like, she loves him. He's digging out change so he can treat her to dinner because she's such a fucking princess, and she won't even move back home to be with him. Stop it, Lily.
Oh my gosh. I know. I have listed on here like where she says it's a cardinal sin in the Hamilton household to go and become a teacher, not a lawyer. Like a sin really. But I have also the thing about the Chicago thing, and I thought, I'm not good at geography, but I'm like, wait a second. She is from Chicago, but their mountain house is in Colorado. I'm like, that doesn't seem like practical to me. It's on like the other side of the country. So it's not at all practical. Like,
No.
especially if you're going there frequently, like it's a second home. It's like a 3-hour flight, I think.
And Chicago is like pretty far
Yeah.
up north. Like,
Yeah,
there's
like
got to be a closer mountain.
there are yeah, I mean, it's cold there. Like I could see if you were flying to like Mexico because you got a beach house or something, but this just doesn't seem, I mean, her parents don't seem very smart, and obviously neither is she. Yeah, so I love the part where she talks about like her relationship with her mom. Do you have anything from that?
I mean, the whole thing is really next level. Like, she calls her parents pretentious, but
Mm-hmm.
she's the only one who's like
Not
coming
pretentious.
across like that.
She's so
And
down to
then
earth. She thinks she's really down
Hi,
to
Sarah.
earth.
This is Nicole, one of the nurses.
Oh no. I missed something. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, so I have underlined here like about the pretentious parents, and then I have, that they taught her how to act properly, which as we see in the next couple pages cannot be true. And then it says good girl didn't just screw some guy she met in an airport, even if she wanted to. Despite the fact that my mother and I disagreed on many topics, we shared the same viewpoint as far as that's.
they often talk about screwing men in airports.
I can barely breathe. So she does not have a close relationship with her mom, really, we see, but apparently they have discussed this at length. Like,
Listen, Lily,
what are your
I need
thoughts?
you to not screw any hot guys in airports.
What are your thoughts on this? I don't
agree,
think
Mom.
it's right either. Okay, Mom, we can agree on that. It's just like, out of all things to discuss, that's the thing that they discussed. So I loved that.
Out of control.
Out of control. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, she just wants to go home. She, get back to her routine, and then she she dozes off or something in the middle of the airport.
I have tears coming out of my eyes right now.
Because that's safe. That's very safe.
Yeah, well, I mean, she thinks and it's funny that we put this because we just had that that podcast where we talked about how no one wants to board an airplane like earlier than they need to. And then of course Lily is the one who goes against that. And she wants to get there as soon as possible. So she watches everyone getting on there and she contemplates stealing someone's newborn so she could get on earlier. Oh God.
Oh my God. And then of course she's walking in and she stops dead because she stops so quickly the person behind her bangs into her because who is she looking at but Max? He's on her plane. You've got to be shitting me.
So how did she not see him at the
I don't know, it's
gate?
huge.
Oh, she was busy looking at herself. That's right. Okay.
That's right. And reading her Cosmo as she walked.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I love that, she stops and it's like my pelvis is like right in his face or whatever.
Yeah, because he's sitting, so they're on the
Uh-huh.
plane walking down the aisle.
Yep. And then he
And
just says it's Max, like his name. And she thinks, what an arrogant bastard.
arrogant again. Arrogant again.
He just said his name. And then
But I love that she's like glancing down as I daydreamed about burying his face between my legs right here in aisle 3. Like just the page before she was thinking about how she wasn't that type of girl.
I know. Well, and also, I mean, does oral sex count as sex? Like, would her mom approve of like oral sex with a stranger in an airport? Technically, they're on a plane now. Like, where does this fall into like that mother-daughter pact that they had?
Yeah,
I don't
know.
really
Did
sure.
they cover that? I don't.
And then she wonders, like, did he know what I was just thinking about? Like, Lily, he's not a psychic. Like,
No,
there's no way he could know.
No, it's ridiculous. And
no one knows.
If he thought he had an actual chance with me, he was sorely mistaken. Well, he actually has a lot of chances. There's a lot of chances coming up.
He has a lot of chances, and he only really needs to take one.
So she says she's going to control herself. He clearly knew how to read people. I don't even know why, because he like looks at her leeringly. Like, I don't even know why she would think. It's ridiculous.
Because he looks at her like she's an easy lay, and Lily's like, oh yeah, he's a good read of me. He's a good read of people. So yeah, she falls asleep again. This chick is like narcoleptic, dude. She's watching those people get on the plane, and then suddenly she's asleep, and then she's in her coach seat, which she talks about because she's not used to that since she had rich parents.
Yeah, but she also talks with the guy next to her originally that he probably smells like cough drops and snores and will pass gas intermittently throughout the flight. And I'm like, I just wrote a note like, for fuck's sake. Like, this person's an arrogant bastard. That person's an arrogant asshole. And this poor old guy who's done nothing to you must snore and pass gas all whole flight.
I know. And I can't believe out of all the criticism we got, I don't think any of them were from like elderly people who were like, this is a little ageist, don't you think? Like multiple times in here, we referenced like old people and their looks or how they are. And like, we really don't think that.
No, and what's funny is like like you said, like we kind of come back to like when she finally like she dozes off and she wakes up, what she notices is the presence of a fresh, clean scent because she was expecting
this old dude smelled like old diapers and mildew or something.
Like, so she's like, I'm in the middle of an airplane. What smells fresh and clean?
Oh God! And then even Max like says it because he says like, it's just us and the gorgeous creature sitting to my left. And then, God, I can't. I'm dying. And then he says, and he throws a slight nod in the direction of the round, gray-haired old woman to the other side of him. Okay, so he's in the middle, first of all. I need to get their seating arrangements right because I'm going to come back to that in a bit.
No, because it doesn't make sense later.
Okay. Thank you. She is at the window seat.
She'd have to be.
Otherwise he would have had to step over her.
Right, so she has to be.
Okay.
I would think. Unless she like is the hardest sleeper on the planet.
I mean, the old creature is a hard sleeper too, I guess, because she didn't notice that he climbed over her then. Right?
She could have known. He would have done it.
Or fallen asleep after the fact.
Right.
Okay.
But so yeah, so he's sitting there. He's, I guess, been reading her book that she dropped, which is like a romance.
Yeah, Lolita.
And then he just like, oh yeah, Lolita, I forgot. I didn't mark what it was. And then he leans up and is basically like, he goes from like 0 to sexual assault in 25 seconds.
Yes. Yes.
Like, he's just like, he's sort of like, oh, making fun of her about the book and all that. And then all of a sudden he's just like, I've been sitting in first class, my cock pressed up against my jeans for hours.
Oh my
Like,
God.
whoa,
I know. And actually,
whoa.
like, I feel like that should be hotter than what, like, the image in my mind would be hot of like a hot guy with his dick pressed against his jeans should be hot, right? But it's a stranger, and that's like his pickup line.
So I wrote that. I actually have a note that says, I'm like, this is hot because I know Max, but would probably be
Yeah.
alarming if I were Lily.
Yeah. Yes. I'd be
Like,
like pushing that button above, like call the flight attendant, like a panic button. Because yeah, that's creepy. Like you just got this other guy's seat and now you're just watching me sleep and reading my porn book because he says classy porn is still porn, doll. He does call himself arrogant.
oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad
Listen,
he would
girl who
too.
won't tell me her name. I am a tenacious, arrogant, and skilled man who always gets what he wants. Rape whistle, where are you? Like,
Yeah, it's rough. It gets
it's
rough
real
in
bad.
here,
Real
sure.
bad.
So, I mean, she tells him basically to go jerk off in the bathroom then because she's not giving in to him. But the more he talks, the more turned on she is, which doesn't make sense because it should be the less turned on because way strong. He's coming on way strong.
Yeah, the more fearful of your life you should be.
Yeah,
Um,
talking about his cock a lot. It's
yep,
a lot.
yep. And then he is just like, oh, I'm just gonna put my hand under this blanket that's over you. And I'm gonna talk to Kristen slash Karen. I don't know why when her name is there multiple times as Kristen, Lily doesn't pick up on it and she doesn't know what her name is. But the flight attendant comes over and he tries to order drinks while he's like about to finger her. That's what's happening, right?
Yeah, and so he's like basically moving his hand up under the
Yeah.
blanket. He's basically like smoothing like this Kristen over so that she brings them drinks, which she agrees because he's so hot. And he orders her a white Zinfandel, and she is like, this jackass may be controlling my body's response to him, but he wasn't going to control what I drank. I mean, like, way to stand firm.
I know. I have that too. I have that too. Like, this is how you're asserting yourself is by saying that you'd rather have a gin and tonic. Meanwhile, you're letting a stranger, she says, finger fucker in a plane.
And then it says he slides 2 fingers forcefully inside me. And I'm like, that's not even like appealingly forcefully. It's not even like appealingly worded.
No, it's not. And it's not very forceful when you're allowing him to do it.
Right. Yeah. And I also like, didn't we have a thing, and maybe I just don't remember correctly. I thought she changed in the bathroom.
Oh.
Or was she just going to change?
No, I think we talked about like why did she not change
Okay.
in the bathroom of like the restaurant? Like what was her plan going to be? Was she going to change at the airport? But yeah, I had to remind myself of what she was wearing because I'm like, is she in like pants? What's happening here? But she wasn't. She's I think still in that pencil skirt at 2:00 in the morning.
But I mean, even that is like very tight. Like the fact that his
Uh-huh.
arm would have to
And
be like
long.
snake. It
They're
would have
not
to be
high up. They're not high up. I mean,
no,
every
and it
time
would be
that
tight. So like
I
he would
have
have to.
tried to have a stranger finger me in a plane and I've had on a pencil skirt, like it hasn't worked out like this. She's clearly done this before.
Yeah, I mean, because he would have to be pushing the material up, and he's only using one hand. It's a mess.
A,
A mess.
a mess, literally, because he says, listen to how wet you are when I move inside you. Actually, that was a really hot line, I think, if it were, again, coming from someone who had a relationship with someone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then like, so they get the drinks and all this is happening, and then she's like, for some reason she trusts Max, which I don't know where that came from. She hasn't trusted him since she met him.
No.
And then like, he was introducing me to a part of myself I'd never even met before, and he wasn't doing it in a skeevy, dirty way. Are you sure?
Oh my God. Oh my
And
God.
I think it might be skeevy and dirty, like both of those things. I think you
Mhm.
can check both of
Mhm.
those off.
Yep. Yeah.
But it feels liberating for her.
I did have that too. I wrote, yes, this is dirty. Like in case there's a question about it. But she's about to come, so everything can be forgotten.
Yes, except he stops. Damn him.
I know. This, if she did not think he was an asshole before, this is reason to think that. Because how
Yeah.
dare
So
he?
so she tries to like take things into her own hands literally because she starts like jacking him off so that he won't stop, but he has the control of a well-seasoned Lothario and he is the
He
most
takes his
control.
belt off and everything. Like there's,
Which would make a shit ton of
I
noise.
know.
But so all that's happening. She notices, all right, he's got a big dick. And then all of a sudden, how does he do this? He releases her hand and reaches across her chest to grab her hair and pull her face gently toward the window as his body pushed against her. What?
I don't. I read that so many times.
He
And
can't push her face toward the window. He can't pull her face toward the window because he's in the middle. So if she's by the window, he would have to push her face. But like, how
this is
obvious.
why
Why would you push her face?
I know people who are trying to become writers learn from our mistakes. No one needs to know that many details.
No, I don't know why he's pulling her by the hair or pushing her or what.
Like,
Like,
man,
what is
this
going on?
motherfucker. Not only did he not let her get off, but he then grabbed her hair with, is it the same hand that has her juices all over him? Like, did you just stroke my hair with my own vaginal fluids? Because if that happened, that's a deal breaker for me.
So
Deal breaker.
yeah, I mean, I think he does have his hands still at that point still on her. So it has to be his free hand that he promised Kristen he would hold the drink with, but didn't.
His tray is
Like,
still down.
he acts like he has to like move closer to her to whisper in her ear. Like it's an airline seat. You're basically on top of each other already.
I know, and no one can hear anything. Like every time I'm on a plane, like my husband will say something to me and I'll be like, "What? What did you what did you just say?" Like you can't talk loudly enough.
So basically, like as soon as the plane like comes to a stop, he stops and
Mm-hmm.
she's all pissed off and he basically says, "I'm not coming until I get to fuck you in this airport."
Oh no, darling, there's no way I'm gonna come in my pants after all this. And if you touch me anymore, I promise I'll have no choice in the matter. First of all, that sounds like someone from like the 1800s speaking.
Look, my lady.
I know, I know. Thou wilt not come in thou pants. But I'm like a sucker for, I love a good like come in the pants scene. You wrote me one, didn't you? Or like something like that. But so I typically, that's hot to me. But probably not in this particular instance.
No. So she's all disgruntled and pissed off. She gets up, he's panning, his stuff to the woman. And then there is a line where I wrote, this line is hilarious, where he hands it to the bag to the old woman who was still unaware that she had nearly been part of a threesome only a few moments before. That was
I
a great
mean,
line.
if she was an unwilling participant in a threesome, like it would have been like a Bill Cosby-esque situation because she was asleep.
I mean, it's honestly that kind of situation for all of them.
I know.
I
I
don't.
I know, and I love that. Like, I love just to backtrack for a second. After they're about to land, which by the way, like the time doesn't match up because it's been like
No.
10 minutes, and then it's like suddenly like they're about to land, and then the pilot's
Well,
like,
she slept for
"Welcome to
2.5
Philadelphia."
hours.
What?
She slept for 2.5 hours.
Okay. Welcome to Philadelphia. Current time. It's like this is how Philadelphia is, like the cock blocking city of the nation or something. I don't know. It just like read weirdly to me for some reason.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, and
she's
then like they talk.
tired. She's annoyed. She's desperately in need of an orgasm. Aren't we all, Lily?
And then she's walking off and he like basically like grabs her and rubs himself up against her back and is like, are you ready to get off? Like, you know, double entendre of like get off or just get off the
We
plane.
love
And
those.
I'm like, this is like a non-con scene. Like there's no consent. Like it's just,
No.
I want this and I can just tell you want it, baby. And I'm like, this is alarming. What's happening here is alarming.
And she even says, I can't do this. I insisted. I can't just fuck some stranger in the Philadelphia airport at 2:45 in the morning. Had that convinced? I don't think it had.
It hadn't, because he then, when she tries to walk away from him, he grabs her by the bicep and pulls her into a dimly lit hallway and into a door that says stamp only.
Why is she not spraying him with mace?
I don't know. Now his erection is pushing into her stomach because he's pinning her with his body against the wall and is like, you have two options. But he does at least say that one of those options is to go home and touch herself while she thinks about him banging her. Which,
Okay.
I mean...
So he will let her leave.
He will let her leave.
Presumably. One of them is not to call the police. But...
Yes. But, like, both situations have him, like, in control of her release. Like, either you go home and imagine me doing this, or I can actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this... I mean, it's Max, so, like, it's hot adjacent. Like, it's almost there.
Yeah.
So dubious. The consent is so dubious that
I know. And I love I don't know, like the double standard of, I don't think double standard's the right word, but like the paradox of like, I'm going to make you fuck me here but it's going to be your choice to do it. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're going to be choosing, but I'm actually choosing for you.
Yeah, it's like she said, it's like he has a key to her brain and knows she wants it, and he just has to push her a little bit harder.
But I mean, she admits he's right, because at the end, I do like this line. Well, the persuasive fucker does make an excellent point, because she probably, if she doesn't fuck him, is going to think of him anyway. So why not just break her promise with her mom?
Yes. I mean, after reading this, I know we mentioned it last time, but I was like, man, I would really like to write not these exact characters, this exact same plot, but the same kind of concept, like overarching, like archetype, like character, you know, characters, and just do it 11 years later.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, she's such a bitch. And she's not a fun bitch like we thought she was at the time. Like, she's just a bitch. And I'm like, we could really have done her much more justice than we did.
Yeah, I do
think she gets better.
What if we should write it again eventually when we have time? She does get better, and I think that's where we were coming from, is like, we knew the character we wanted her to become or be, but she wasn't that character then, which is fine, but I feel like we should have kind of, as writers, acknowledged that, but we didn't.
And later, I feel like what it was, when I was thinking about this earlier, I was like, I think what it was is that because, you know, at the time we were both teaching, and when you're a teacher, like, there's so much on a daily basis that you can't say out loud. So Lily was like our avenue to just say whatever out loud. But she doesn't come across as appealingly as I thought it did at the time. Like, I found her more funny 11 years ago.
I think she does get funny. Like, I don't think that we thought she was funny here. I do think we thought she was irritated at the parents, and it's late.
But like, we thought it was justified. Like, we didn't think it was stupid.
Yeah, but I also am trying to figure out, as I'm thinking, like, oh, it's late. I guess the time works out. I was like, okay, Colorado's only an hour difference? So she left dinner early. Like, what the fuck time were they eating? Midnight? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, or maybe she like, obviously, like, she got to the airport very early because, yeah. Well, if they landed it landed at 2, right? So if it's 3, it's 1 hour. So yeah, 12.
It landed at 2:40, at 2:30, at 2:30.
but you want to get, you get to the airport a little early, and she's getting there even a little bit even earlier than she would have because she left dinner early. So,
But she
I mean,
didn't because she says something like her flight leaves in like 45 minutes. Because I remember saying, wait, what would have happened if she stayed for all of dinner and possibly dessert? Like she would have missed her flight. So who knows?
That's right.
Who knows? We hate timelines if we've learned
I
anything.
know, and this was a bitch for timelines. Not this
Oh,
one so much, but
yeah,
going into the
matching
second
it.
was
Yeah.
rough.
But I mean, it's worth a read.
And worth a reread.
Yeah, I actually still think it's a good book. I mean, people loved Max, so we must have done something right. It's just funny to like read it back, I guess. I think.
Yeah, no, and I think because we know like who they all become, so like to us the character we're like, oh well, Lily and Max, because like ultimately like who they are in these first two chapters is not what you see even just a few chapters later.
Right. But I mean, we'll have to do chapter 3 soon. You know, and just leave people in suspense whether they fuck in a dimly lit hallway or not. Yeah. You'll have to wait to find out. But this was fun. I was laughing hysterically on my own. So I'm glad that we got to recap this perfectly written masterpiece.
Going exactly as planned.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, until next time when we hit chapter 3.
Chapter 3.